and I have a pole somewhere here. I will just change its pivot point, because later on I will want to animate it. Okay, and now we have this flag. We would want to make it, to have it animated. So we have a couple of ways of doing that. We can have a physics simulation and try to export it. There are two ways of doing it. Or we could actually create a bone system. So create systems, bones, and kind of, you know, just do the same thing as you would do with characters. You would rig it, you would add a skin, and you would animate the bones, and it would control the flag. And this actually is kind of a proper, in many cases it would be a way to go, especially for character animation, clothes, like you know, imagine you have a long scarf or a dress or something like that that has to kind of go together with the character. And of course you can animate it together with bones of character, so with the walk cycle and whatnot, and it would kind of react, you know, as good as you did it. So that's one way, and you would be able to do it. Now we'll see, I mean, with what we learned beforehand in last semester or whatever. And today we will look into other ways of doing this. So one of the other ways would be to have a cloth simulation, and 3D Max has many of these cloth simulations. Each version added a new one, and it's always a confusion which one to work with. So I will go with MassFX, and I will say that this, notice I'm in animation, MassFX, and let's say this will be a M-cloth. So my plane is an M-cloth at the moment, and my pole, the stick that the flag is connected to, it will be a rigid body, no, it will be a kinematic body, I think. Animation, MassFX, rigid bodies, and it will be a kinematic rigid body. So what's the difference? So static rigid body would be like a ground. It does not move, it just stays there. You know, some things that do not need to move. Kinematic objects are ones you want to animate with keyframes, and dynamic ones are the ones that the simulation takes control of them. So for a pole it would be a rigid body. Now we want to connect our flag to a pole. So what we do is we make a vertex selection. So I go here, select, let's say, those vertices, and now I need to make a group. So I make a group, I name it properly, not like this, and I think it's here, node, and it asks me what object it should be connected to, and I click this. Now you see it's connected to a box 1, and that's all. So all other things that we could do here in the cloth settings, we could, you know, play with gravity, density, stiffness, stretchness, sorry, bendiness, damping, friction, and all of those things. But for us it will be fine as it is. Oh, notice that here we also have it as either kinetic or dynamic, so we want it to be dynamic. And now I will just quickly animate my pole a little bit. So a keyframe at frame 5, maybe we just, let's rotate it, no, animation, a little bit, and it goes back to original position at frame 10. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to bake animation. So we either do it from MassFX tools, which we get from here, utilities, and I think it's show MassFX tools, it's this box here, or I could do it directly from our cloth object, just by bake, hitting a bake. So I'll just do it here, bake all, and hopefully my flag animates. Oh, we also should note that this MassFX thing, MassFX, it grabs our grid, you know, the position of 0 in the world axis, and it pretends this is a plane, like right here. So it doesn't go lower. Notice that it kind of, this is a ground situation here. Okay, maybe stretchness is too big, or, you know, we could fix some things here, but let's say we like the animation. So now let's pretend we want to put it to Unity. So you will see that there is no direct way of putting it unless you find some obscure script that I don't know. So the only way I found it is so you would use a point cache, and you would save all the animation of each vertex as a separate, as I don't know, in one file, and you can export it included in FBX format. But the problem is that Unity doesn't support it directly, and in this case I found that there is this pack, this, what is it called, I don't know, utility, whatever it is, Mega Fires, which costs a lot of money, but it supports where is it? Point cache animation support. So that would be one way of doing things. If you need lots of cloth simulations, which you cannot do directly in Unity because maybe they are more complicated to be handled in real-time Unity engine, you might consider getting this. So I'll show how to prepare the file for using it like this, and then we'll see some other versions, how to not to buy this expensive thing. So we have the cloth, and now we want a point cache modifier. Point cache. So what we will do is we'll create a new file. Let's see here. Yes, I want to override and record. So it's recorded. Now to prove that it works, I'll just make a clone of this object. It's a copy with a nice name, and we get rid of cloth simulation. So now this object, okay, it has keyframes. Oh no, it doesn't have any keyframes because the keyframes were stored in the mcloth. Okay, so it's just a regular plane. The only thing that it's similar to this, it has the same amount of vertices. So we can now grab the same point cache thing. Point cache. Point cache. And we should be able to load it where we saved it. And if you play, I think it should already work. Yeah, it works. So it gets the position of each vertex in time from this text file that we saved, and I loaded here. So now next thing is I want to be able to save it in an FBX. And if you would notice, if I go to File, Export Selected, and I say, I'm not going to export it at the moment, but if I would say let's export it, and I want to include point cache files, there is nothing to include because we need to make a set, which is a weird thing to it's weird that we need to do it, but basically I'll just create a selection set here. And it could be one, or it could be, I don't know, sim cloth or something. Enter. And I think that's it. File, export selected. Just give a name. And now we should have SimCloth here. So now if we export it, actually we should export one without and one with, just to see that the files are different. So I don't remember, did I call it FFF or something? I think it's this file. Oops. Come on. Yes, FFF and it's 246 kilobytes. Now I do the same thing with my selection set. FFF2 1 2 whatever. Now I'll include the selection set. Come on. And you'll see that it's a bit bigger, so we have actually 1 kilobyte more. So in this case it's very little, but of course for bigger for bigger animations you might have a big difference. So, and now we cannot directly import it to Unity because it won't see this this cache file unless we have either this plugin, not plugin, I don't know, asset, whatever thing for Unity, or you would be able to find somewhere, you know, on a GitHub somewhere, some exporter which supports it, but I don't know enough about that, so I will shut up here. So we'll see another way of doing it, and that would be, I could do it on this one or on this one, doesn't matter. I will use Morph Targets. So Morph Targets are intended to be used for facial expressions most of the time, but we can just have this animation in the same way we would have a facial animation. So what I do is, let's say I go to frame number 10, and I make a copy of this object, Control V, come on, do it by hand, clone, it's a copy, and I'll call it AA. Now I'll go to frame 20, again copy, now actually don't need to go to another frame because I don't collapse it yet, whatever. So BB, and I then make another copy. Let's say it's CC, and another copy, copy, DD. Okay, so now what I want to do, let's isolate. We only want to see this. So we have 4 objects here. I will grab a BB object, go to frame, say 10, and convert it to editable poly or mesh, which means it no longer has this cache file and it just stays as it is at the moment. Now I'll go to frame 20, grab my CC thing, convert it to editable poly, 30th frame, and what I want to do, to convert it to poly. And do we still have one more? 3Ds? Yeah, I guess so. So frame 40. And I again convert it to editable poly. Now let's hope I still have the first one. Yeah, I still have it. And I'll get rid of point cache here as well. So now I have 4 objects here. Kind of they are snapshots of the simulation in time. Frame 10, 20, 30, and whatever, what was it. So now for this object, I will, which is it? No, that's the wrong one. I want an AA. Actually, I think I have too many objects here, so I'll get, I don't know which one. I'll get rid of one of them. Okay, so I go back to this one. Now it still have point cache. Let's get rid of it. And now we'll add a Morpher. So it's under animation, modifiers, animation, and a Morpher. Now I could just load all the targets, pick targets from scene, or load multiple targets. That's what I'll do. And I'll grab these. It immediately says that you cannot have this one because probably it has different number of vertices, or might be this one is the one with cloth modifier, I don't know. Basically what I'm saying is it only shows the ones that are supported, so they have to have the same amount of vertices. So BB, and now you see I have a transition from 0 to 100 till it reaches this shape. It changes to this shape, to this target. Now I will animate it. So say on frame 10, we say here is 100. Now on frame 20, we say this is 100. But now actually this plus this, they are kind of adding on, one on, how do you say, they're compounding. I'm not sure if that's the word. So what I'll want is on, let's see, frame 11, I'll have this as 0. I think that will be correct. Yeah, looks correct. So on 21, this will be 0 as well. But on 30, I want this to be 100. And let's make sure that on 20 it is still 0 on 2020 it should be 0, so it changes from 0 to 100. So now I have this object and it have these morph targets. I will export it as FBX, export selected. I will call it Z. And now we do not want any sets, any point clouds, point caches, but we make sure we want morphs here, and maybe it's just 30 seconds. Okay, and let's check it. So, oops, Unity scene, and let's grab this file here, and hopefully it all works. So we have Z, let's play animation, and you see it kind of works. I think I messed up something with keyframes there, and it should work. Let's pause it, and I have some problems with keyframing, seems like, but in general this is one way of kind of transferring animation of this sort to Unity. What else did I want to show you? Yeah, that's it. So the cloth simulation, and either you make a point cache, how's it called? Cache point cache, and then point cache, and then you need a plugin to import it to Unity, or you make a simulation and transfer it through Morph Targets, or you make animation with the bones and just export it with skin to FB.